Welcome to Seacoast Stories, a podcast about the people, businesses, and newsmakers that make the Seacoast an American hidden gem. I'm Trey Farkas, and on today's episode, my conversation with Jay Collins, the passionate owner of Flight House Gym, a Rye family business known for its group workouts, state-of-the-art equipment, and its past life as something completely different. It's the late 2000s in Hampton. 40-year-old Jay Collins is a mortgage broker at Blue Water, and he's miserable. He's divorced, uninterested in his job, and doesn't know what to do with his life. Besides his 3 kids, all he has is fitness. A former military man and football coach, working out has always played a crucial role in Jay's life. And in the early 2000s, long before the CrossFit wave hit the United States, Jay stumbles upon this thing called functional training. In a nutshell, functional training exercises use movements you might make in everyday life, like squatting down to play with your kids or lunging to pick up a dog toy. This type of training uses kettlebells, medicine balls, resistance bands, and other standard gym items. Now, if you're a gym rat, this stuff is common practice today. But back then, it was foreign. And after years of training this way, Jay's coworkers finally asked him one day about how he manages to stay so fit. And once Jay fills them in on this revolutionary method, they ask him if he'll lead workouts for them at the office. Taken aback by the sudden interest in his workout routine, Jay accepts the offer and leads a free class for 3 of his coworkers on site. Soon, word spreads, and within a month, Blue Water turns a back room of their garage into a mini workout facility, and Jay starts regularly leading workouts for 30 coworkers. For years, he does this for free, and the workouts often become the only reason he shows up to work at all. As he ponders his future beyond Blue Water, Jay wonders, can I make this a business? Not long after, and with the help of his now second wife, Jay opens MaxEdge Fitness, a first-of-its-kind gym on the Seacoast. During the 11 years of MaxEdge, its group classes made it one of the premier fitness destinations in the area. But after the pandemic sent ripples across the fitness industry, MaxEdge closed, and Jay, inspired by an idea that had gnawed at him for years, then bet his life savings on what is now Flight House, a massive workout facility in Rye that combines group fitness classes with a traditional commercial gym space. On today's episode, Jay will discuss the early days of MaxEdge, a time when he woke up every day at 2:45 a.m. so he could then teach 11 classes at the gym. He'll also talk about the effects of this insane work ethic on his family life, the difficult transition to becoming Flight House, and how you can take back control of your fitness journey, even if you feel it's too late. But before we get there, we revisit the moment in the late 2000s when Jay made the decision to completely start over. How did you get the courage to reinvent yourself? Because a lot of people kind of hit that stage in their lives where they're comfortable. They've been doing the same thing for years. They know they're good at it. They know what their routines look like. It's all familiar, and people love familiarity and being comfortable. So how did you rip yourself from that and convince yourself that I'm going to be okay and it's never too late to start anew?
Probably because I wasn't as invested in my prior career. I wasn't that good at it, honestly. It didn't intrigue me like this did. I think deep down, I was meant to be an entrepreneur. And I never realized at the time, because you get into life and, I was in the military. I got out and you're just trying to figure it out. And I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm figuring out stuff right now. It never ends. Okay. I thought by the time I was, maybe 46, 47, I had all this shit figured out. But guess what? I don't know anything. Okay.
What don't you have figured out?
I think if you did have it all figured out, for real, I figured this part out, but what's next? That's a dangerous thing, particularly as you age. I think it's one of those things where you can feel like you made it. And I guess I could kind of feel like I made it right now a little bit. Things are good. I have a successful business. I have a great marriage. I have a team now that's not just all about me here trying to make it work. People ask me questions. I don't even know the answer to them anymore, which is really unique. Okay, it's great. But I'm learning how to do that. So I think the day I actually have it figured out, I'm not looking forward to that day. Does that make sense to you all?
The day that you think you have it figured out is the day that you stop growing.
Yeah. And I do think I was there for a little while where I thought I was. I think that you get to a point where like you have some modicum of success and people might look at you a certain way. And then it's easy to get caught up in that bullshit. It just is.
I'm so fascinated when we talk about careers, because I think what people want, or especially the younger generations these days, what they want out of their careers is perhaps different than what people in your generation felt. I know my parents certainly like work is work. It's just a means to an end. You don't have to love it. Just find something you're good at and get the paychecks and get the benefits and then go live a meaningful life outside of work. Where the transformation's kind of been is more so, now it's, okay, no, I want to love what I do. I mean, you spend so many hours of your life working. You don't want to just tolerate them. And it sounds like you were kind of at that place for a while.
Oh, yeah. Just what's a means to an end. Get to the end of the day. There really isn't an end of the day anymore. You know what I mean? Like the day there's thoughts that pop in and like next thing you know, I'm focusing on something else. And why are you doing what you do? You know what I mean?
Obsessed with it.
Exactly. And I think that what the world needs is obsessed people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Obsessed people make good things.
They do. I mean, it's how shit gets done. All right. It's like how we move forward as a society. If you're a hater, if you're going to like begrudge somebody because they want to do something great, all right, it's your loss, man. It's your loss. I'm inspired by what you're doing. All right. I'm really like, the younger generation right now, I'm super optimistic, like really, really super optimistic because they're looking at the bigger picture. It used to be that, okay, like if I don't have any type of skill, if I'm not that great in school, well, maybe I'll get into selling some type of sales stuff, or maybe I'll, if I'm smart, well, then I guess I'll be an engineer or a doctor or whatever. But like, it's almost like it was laid out for you. You know what I mean? Depending on what you were. But now it's like, people can think for themselves. I mean, I have two boys, who are in a band. And since Trevor was 13 and Matt was 18, they've been doing it professionally. And now they do better than their mother and I, okay? They've been doing that for years. And I've watched them create their own path. Super inspiring.
Yeah, that's the dream for your kids to do better than you.
Oh my God, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's such a good feeling to see them like become that, without having to go through all the bullshit of doing like something that they didn't want to do. And for me, maybe that's just what it was. Like I needed to go through, hey, like everything happens for a reason. I kind of believe in that stuff now. Like I can't believe I'm even sitting here right now talking to you. It's nuts, and never would have seen it coming. You're probably thinking right now, by the time I hit 37, I'm done. I've had it all figured out. All right. But like, it's not true, That's one of the things I really admired about what you're doing. Okay. Like starting this, these conversations are what people need. They're fuel. You can get excited about somebody else's accomplishments. It's okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really cool too.
Yeah.
And, I had somebody just, one of our members is opening up a studio right down the street. It's called Sweat. And she came up to me to talk to it one day. And I think she was a little nervous to talk to me. I'm like, this is what it's about.
Yeah.
You're chasing it. You'll do great. If you have this same passion, you're going to build it. And that's really what it is. It's believing in yourself, believing in your product. This whole famine mentality that a lot of people in...
What's that?
It's like, hey, if this guy's doing good and I'm in the same business as him, instead of looking at it and saying, how can I do that? How can I like take my own business to this level? Instead, you begrudge them. But if there's one gym in town doing well, then maybe that means I'm not going to do that well if I open up a gym. You know what I mean? It's like kind of limited thinking. There's something for everybody.
Yeah. And rising tide lifts all boats. And ultimately, more fitness, the better we all are.
Hey, look at everyone. We're not everybody's cup of tea. What we are is, before in our previous incarnation as MaxEdge, we were limited. That's really the reason why we changed our name. MaxEdge Fitness Training was just known for group classes. That was it. Well, Jack and I were walking out of here. My son Jack is my business partner. And we were walking out of here one day after we made a really specific change that really kind of turned who we were. And I looked at him and I said, we're not MaxEdge anymore. Like we're not even close to being the same thing. And we both left and pulled out of the road. I took a left down Route 1, heading back to Hampton to go back to MaxEdge to teach the 4:30 class. And he took a right to head to his place in Portsmouth. And yeah, maybe within 5-10 minutes, he called me and he said, "Dad, Flight House Gym." And I'm like, holy shit, that's it. That was literally it. He came up with it. He saw a license plate that said Flight on the back of it, and it triggered Flight House. It was a unique kind of homage to like the history of the location.
Right.
And ultimately, it gave us a chance to, I don't know, almost be reborn, and it became exciting. People thought it was crazy.
Yeah, they always do.
You're going to 11 years, you're going to cycle, you're going to get rid of your name because you don't walk away from your 11-year-old business. But,
yeah,
we're Flight House Gym.
Yeah. And I want to get to that transition later on, but let's go back to the early days of MaxEdge. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you have so you're training coworkers.
Yeah.
What about that experience had you thinking, oh, wait, I want to transition this into a career and a business, and this is the right path moving forward?
Yeah, honestly, I realized, holy cow, I think I'm good at this. They're responding to me. People were upset if they weren't able to make the class that day. If I'm getting 30 plus people every day out of this company that has 30 something people to actually do a workout, could it be a business? And I thought nothing about like traffic count, visibility. We were on a dead end street in Hampton with a triple digit traffic count. So it was really more of like, there was just some type of a calling to like make me feel like that needed to become what I was going to do.
What did the workouts at Blue Water look like?
Oh, it was circuit type stuff, stations where you might have to do this for a certain period of time. And there became a point where I started tying people together. Like, okay, you're doing this for this many reps, you're doing this for this many reps, and you're doing this for this amount of distance or whatever it is. Okay. And nobody can move on until you all complete your task. So it was a way to kind of keep everybody involved in the programming, in the workouts, together, connected, because there's something about that shared experience, as opposed to doing something by yourself on your own. You're sharing this thing with people. So like, there's a goal that all three of them are working towards, but each person's got to do their part before they can rotate. And then once they hit their goal, congratulations, you accomplished it, but you did it together as a group. So that was really the basis for what ultimately became what we did in MaxEdge, was how do I do more with less?
Okay. So you and your wife decide, want to open a gym. Now, it's great to have passion for an idea, but you have to make money on that. Yeah. And the fitness industry, I think, is notoriously, it's hard to make a sustainable business out of it. So when you were in those early days planning it out, how were you approaching this from a business perspective?
So I felt like my number one objection I wanted to overcome when we first opened MaxEdge was time. Like, in other words, I wanted to make sure that somebody wouldn't come to me and say, oh, you don't have a class at the time I need it. So I taught 11 classes a day for the first 2 years.
Just you?
Yeah.
Wow.
So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, noontime, 1 o'clock, 4, 5, 6, 7 p.m. at night.
Oh my gosh.
I was living in Hollis. I sold my house in Manchester when Nancy and I got married, moved to Hollis. So I was commuting, it's over by Nashua. I was commuting an hour a day. I would leave the house at 2:45 in the morning. I started leaving at that time because what was happening was I only had an hour off between 11 and 12. Typically, that wasn't enough time for me to get my workout in, and eat and whatever else, you got to do. And what I also found was shortly thereafter, probably we opened in September, by November, I'm too tired. Can't get anything done. I'm exhausted. I'm teaching these classes. And again, it wasn't like they were full classes. When you open up, I had 11 classes a day, and most of those classes would have single digits or, 1 or 2 people in them. But what else was I going to do? I needed to make this work.
Right.
There was no safety net. There was no backup plan.
And were you going through the workouts too?
I would often back then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Not all of them, but yeah, I would do even sometimes parts of them with them, you know what I mean? If I had to, but I always, those days I always did my own thing as well, because I felt like I needed to keep pushing harder. But yeah, I would leave the house at 2:45, train before I taught the first class. I would drive the hour over, train before I taught the first class. And then, at 8 o'clock at night, I would leave, drive the hour home. I'd walk right past my family and go to bed and get up and do it again.
Just been so exhausted all of the time.
But you want to know what, like, I needed to get good at it. I sucked in the beginning. I did. I felt really proficient myself, but it didn't mean I was actually good at creating workouts. I did what I did at the time, but like it's a whole different thing now when you're doing it as a professional, when you're doing it for a living. And this is how you're going to put food on the table, put the kids through college. You're going to do all this stuff. I needed those 10,000 hours, man. I needed to get good. So just completely obsessed at night. Even when I would get home at night, I would just like sit there and just think about like different ways I could do things. How could I incorporate this or that? I really believed early on that the classes needed to be an experience.
Yeah.
The people that go to classes, they want to be in shape. They want to be fit. They want that. Nobody's worried about a 6-pack abs. Okay. Nobody's worried about a 1-rep max. All right. They're coming in because they want you to take them through an experience for an hour where they leave feeling better. Honestly, once I learned that, that's when we really took off. Once I really, really made it about their experience.
And what was the response in the early days, even, for the 3 people you were teaching a class?
Nobody had, because it was different. We did things differently than other gyms were at that time. So yes, it was just constantly like, I've never done anything like this. I've never seen anything like this. And New England's always behind the game when it comes to like anything that evolves out of fitness. The Seacoast is rough. There's a reason why like big giant gyms haven't come in here and invested tons of money, because they're just not the people here. Okay. People equal dollars, when it comes to it. So word of mouth was phenomenal in the beginning. Social media in 2011 wasn't nearly what it is now. We didn't have a sign out in front of our building. There was nothing. Really, word of mouth is what got us going. And so the response was great. And friends brought friends. And even in the beginning, I remember we started kind of taking off. And I remember this woman walked up to me and said, I'm a little bit afraid to tell my friends about this because I don't want it to get spoiled. And I'm like, hey, look at, if you want us to be here, trust me.
Yeah.
All right. I just met with my accountant. I'm 9 months into this and still haven't taken a paycheck yet. Okay. So like, tell your friends. Okay. Tell your friends. Nobody quite gets that. But yeah, so the response was great. And fortunately, it took off fairly quickly. At least like early on, we were able to cover our expenses. We weren't digging into our savings to like pay the bills for the gym. We're certainly digging into our savings to pay for the expenses of life. That's for sure.
So how long did you work at this maniacal pace of 2:45 wake-ups, teaching 11 classes a day before you started to get some help?
2 years.
Wow. So you did 2 years of that lifestyle.
Yeah. So it got to the point where like, for whatever reason, Tuesdays, I was a zombie. So I wound up staying at the gym in Hampton on Tuesday nights. I would teach the last class at 7, close up shop at 8, throw something down my throat, brush my teeth, and go lay down on the couch in the office and go to sleep. And it was like a fishbowl because there's windows all around it. It was horrible. It was horrible. But that's what I did. I was in the military. I'd gone days without sleep. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't foreign to it. But when you do it day after day after day, I remember I had walking pneumonia my first year or two, and like I had no voice. It was like before Thanksgiving, I have no voice at all, and I'm still trying to teach these classes because nobody else could, and I certainly couldn't afford anyone to. My wife was managing the house and also making sure the bills were paid, making sure we're manually running everyone's credit card every month. There wasn't a system to set up for auto bills or anything like that. But eventually she started teaching some classes too. So she would come out and she would help me one night a week. And then we moved out here. We moved to the Seacoast at that point. Thank God.
Yeah.
And that was always the plan. That's why we opened up here in the first place.
So at that time, early days, wife, 7 kids across 2 marriages.
Yeah.
What did this obsession with this business do to your family life, and how were they responding to you being gone all the time, invested in this thing?
Yeah, it was hard. I mean, I hope, and now there's, a bunch of grandkids. I hope they respect it, and appreciate like what hard work does, and all of them have their own successes and gone down their own path. And I hope that, they saw the drive. They saw the passion. They saw the relationship between their mother and me. And I think that goes a long way too. You know what I mean? As far as like having the kids kind of feel like, the home life is okay. You know what I mean? We're good and we're working towards something. I hope they're proud of me, you know what I mean, in some ways. And I think they are, you know what I mean? It's like, I feel proud of them, You want your family to do well. But I think it's a cool thing now. You know what I mean? It wasn't always easy, but now looking back, it's a journey that we were all on.
Yeah. When you do look back on the growth and success of MaxEdge, the 10 plus years that it was in business, what are the big moments that you look back on as this is when things started changing, this is when we started growing?
Okay, so we do a Thanksgiving workout every year. Okay, we continued it here at Flight House. We had 145 people sign up for the Thanksgiving workout this year here. Okay, so it's a thing. Well, that started the very first year on Thanksgiving with me. And again, my wife's like, oh my God, you're going to go out to the gym on Thanksgiving and work out? I'm like, I kind of like want to get a workout. Like Thanksgiving is the best holiday ever. Okay. There's no presents. Like you stay at home, you can eat too much, you drink what you want. It's like a day of gluttony. Just have a good time. Like forget about whatever, if you're counting macros or if you're doing anything to me, it was always the best, but you need to go get a good sweat in to start the day. Wake the day feeling well and then go from there. And that's what I wanted to do. So I threw it out to the gym at the time. And it was, we opened in September 2011. This is November 2011. And I'm like, hey, if anybody wants to work out on Thanksgiving morning, come on out. Well, 16 people showed up that morning. I have no idea how many members we had at the time. Not a lot. Well, less than 100 for sure. I remember at that time thinking, oh my God, how am I ever going to teach a class this size again? 16 people. So I'm like, well, my mind was blown. So it was like, there was that moment. And then the next Thanksgiving is when it really kind of kicked in. Things started getting bigger. I remember some mornings looking at the 6 a.m. class. I'm like going, holy cow. That next Thanksgiving we had, I think it was like 68 people. So that was when I'm like, I bought rowers. We got really heavy into those. I even remember a local gym owner sent me a direct message on Facebook and saying, did you rent all those rowers for that? Nobody did that back then. So for me, that was a big investment at that time. I was like, okay, I'm starting to evolve the product here. I need to make sure equipment is important.
Right.
And so it was at that point that I kind of started reinvesting some money into the business too. But that was the moment where I'm like, oh my God, in the last year, I've gone from 16 people in a class I thought I could never handle more than. I got 68 people dialed in. Mm. That happened over the course of a year. So it was really at that point where I was like, we're on to something.
Yeah.
We really are. And then shortly thereafter, Jack went away to college for a year. And I remember he came home after his first semester and said, Dad, I'm just pissing away your money. I want to be in the gym. This is what I want to do. And I get it. College isn't for everybody. And I think too often people feel like that's the path they have to go down because
that's what we're told.
We're told,
Very self-aware of him to do that.
Yeah, it was great, honestly.
Great for your wallet.
Yeah, it was. But I think, and I've already seen my 2 older boys, all right, like Matt and Trevor got signed to a record label when they were, Trevor was 13, 14 years old. He was done with school. They were touring.
Wow.
Yeah, got his GED, but he's super smart, super successful. In all different types of businesses, not just the band,
wow.
So it's we've always had this understanding that there's more to it than just that proper education, and he had a passion for it. So when he came on, that was when I really kind of felt like couldn't afford to pay him.
Yeah.
Couldn't afford to pay him shit. To be honest with you. It's like, hey, okay, you're living at home. You're going to make, I think we paid him back then $250 a week or something like that. And he was working a lot, but that's all we could afford and still keep a roof over everybody's head.
Yeah. On the subject of money, I mean, if you're trying to get really good gym equipment, that's expensive.
Yeah.
How much money was needed to operate the business and where was it coming from?
Well, luckily, memberships got to a point early on in MaxEdge where we were able to cover our overhead. We spent our own money on the equipment. We spent our own personal money to go ahead and fit up the upfront costs.
So life savings for finance at early days.
Done it twice now.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, this place definitely did it.
How terrifying was that to do that?
Yeah, man, I don't know. It's one of those things where I think you get to a certain point and, you believe in something so much that if you don't roll the dice, it's worse not to roll the dice. I'll do it again. Fuck yeah. Seriously, I'll do it again. You can be cautious for myself. I'm not like that. That's not how it comes naturally to me. I had to grow into this. And honestly, I could never do it by myself because I'm not smart enough. I know where my strengths are. But like without my wife kind of handling the operation side, and like you get to a certain point where you have a certain level of confidence, and it's not just like in diluted confidence. It's a confidence that because you have a discussion and you kind of both believe in like what you're trying to do, there's got to be a real belief there, not delusion, you know? And that evolves over time. And it wasn't until I really found that thing that I felt confident enough to like put my neck on the line.
Something that doesn't come naturally to me is delegation.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about it.
I'm such a control freak, and I imagine you probably were in the early days of MaxEdge
such
as
an
well.
asshole. Such an asshole.
Such an asshole when you were doing everything. I'm sure you were mopping the floors, cleaning the toilets.
Mopping the floors in my 50s. Okay. So like really, I opened this place only 2 years ago.
Yeah. You were doing everything. You feel like
shit, yeah.
You feel like you're the only one that knows how this can run and no one else can. But at some point you reach a point where it's like, for this to work, I have to get over my ego and trust other people to take some of the burden. How did you get yourself there?
By realizing that there's things I'm good at and there's things I'm not good at, and everybody has their role. And, you know, there's times I would find myself interfering like with something that was happening operationally. And then after I walked away and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? I am just screwing this all up. We're sitting right outside of my office here is right outside of the front desk. Trust me, if I had to do this all over again, I'd bury myself someplace out back, because just being able to sit here and like listen to stuff, I'm that idiot that's going to go out. It does nothing. The only way to like learn how to get good at things is to work at it, to do it. It's why our trainers are full-time. Reps. Life's about reps. Well, how's the guy running my front desk going to get better at his job if I come out here and still just keep, every time I hear something that kind of puts a hair across my ass, like I'm interfering. And any type of business that has any aspirations to become more than just me, you need that. Otherwise, you'll never be able to grow.
Well, MaxEdge did grow a lot into one of the premier gyms on the Seacoast, but eventually you had to change course with it.
Yeah.
Why did MaxEdge go away?
Okay. So, you remember this thing called COVID?
A little bit.
So, now picture this. And again, I will just say this, okay? I've had this concept in my head that what we are right now for years. Making it a reality seemed like a pipe dream. COVID comes along. We're in our 10th year, okay, of being in business. And all of a sudden, overnight, you're done. You're not essential. You have 2 days to close down your business. Somehow, everything that you worked for overnight, because of this invisible pandemic that it really hadn't even hit here yet. You know, it was all in anticipation of what was coming and the fear that went along with that and everything else. And I don't even want to get into politics, okay, because this isn't what it's about. But really, it was fucked up. It was, like honestly, like you have like, you couldn't go into a gym and exercise, but I could stand in line inside a donut shop and wait for somebody to fill up my dozen donuts. Made zero sense at all. Anyway, at least to me, it didn't.
And you also had, I wasn't at MaxEdge, but you had space. I mean, you could socially distance responsibly, right? For sure.
And we had the equipment to do it, and we did do it. Even when we reopened, we didn't have one case that was traced back to the gym. Back when they were doing contact tracing, not one. People were healthy. They were healthy. So anyway, we're closed down, and during that time, right back to square one. Where now I'm 54. I'm teaching every single class a day. I'm mopping the floors, cleaning the bathroom, all that stuff. I decided then and there that if we made it out of this, I had my lease coming up like in a year. At that point, I had like another year left or something along those lines. So I was like, in the next year, I'm either going to make something big happen or I'm going to get the fuck out. I'm 50 something years old. I'm starting over. If I made this work for all this time, I'll go out and I'll sell whatever you got. I'll make a living somehow. But if I can make this different, if I can make this something that's going to be bigger, I can pull up the Instagram post, but December of like 2020, I posted like this picture on my Instagram page saying the next year I'm going to do something big. About a year later, I walked into this building for the first time, took a video of the space and sent it out to all 7 of the kids. And I said, you're looking at the future of MaxEdge. Had no idea how I was going to pay for it. Had no idea, like 0 idea, because clearly our membership had plummeted. We're holding on by a thread. I gave out every single piece of equipment in the gym, delivered it to my members, all my rowers, bike ergs, ski ergs, all of our kettlebells, emptied the place out. I didn't have crap to work out with by myself, barely. And every night we created at-home workouts, put out a video every night just to keep them going, keep them engaged. You know, had a lot of people that stopped paying. And that's fine. You know, that's how it happens, you know. But we had people that stayed for those couple of months and then people that wound up coming back. But, you know, we're still battling. Once we reopened, we're still battling, you know, just the whole psyche.
Right. And how long were you closed for?
Just about 3 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you were told by the state that you had to close, what did you think was going to happen to the business from that point on?
It's really weird because, like, I'll be honest, like it was a scary time. I mean, like I remember, I'll never forget the day that I just gave out all the, it was like 2 days later, I gave out all the equipment and I'm standing in the empty gym because I couldn't stay in the house. I'm one of these guys, I get up, I got to go. Okay. So I would still go to the gym every day. I would spend the whole day there. I just had to. But I remember I got a text from somebody and they said, hey, canceling my membership. Sorry, you know how much I love you guys. And it was from somebody I like didn't expect to get it from. And I remember thinking, shit, here it comes. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those times where you do begin to wonder. And then I remember there was one point where, I don't know, I just got angry. And I used that anger to kind of, right or wrong, just kind of like fuel me. I promised everybody, when you come back, it's not just going to be the same, it's going to be better. And it was. It was. Like so much of the stuff that evolved out of that time, you know, we use in our classes now that didn't exist before then because I had to think differently. Sometimes, you know, shit happens and you can either lay down and die. You can either just wait for it to pass and kind of just keep moving forward, or you can try to figure out a way to get better. And I truly believe that any time that there's a real conflict, there's opportunities. There's opportunities. People will, I said at the time, people are going to come out of this pandemic better than they were before. And that's me. Like, thank God. But yeah, that was the trigger that made this happen. And when we did go all in on this and really went all in, because what it took to create MaxEdge in the beginning was just a fraction of what it actually took to, I mean, I'll watch you around out there. You know, there's probably $750,000 worth of equipment. That doesn't just appear, you know. It takes a real commitment. To us, equipment is everything. So it was one of these things, if we're going to do it, we got to figure out a way how to really do it. And fortunately, we were able to pull it off. The opportunity came about and I had no idea how it was going to come together. I had no idea how I was going to pay for it, any of that stuff. It just kept moving forward until it all came together.
Well, that's an incredible conviction that you had. I'm curious because you said you were at that crossroads of, I'm getting out of this business entirely and doing something different, or I'm going all in again on fitness and building something bigger than I can even imagine right now. When you were at that place, those are polar opposites. How did you get yourself amped up and hyped up to go do something that hadn't been done before?
The idea for this is, it wasn't like it just popped in that, like, it all started Jack and I one day during a workout ourselves in between classes. Can you imagine if we could ever do this? It was literally like one of those conversations. You know what needs to happen? Somebody needs to like combine these two worlds and cater to somebody that wants something better on the open gym.
Worlds of just open gym, open space, and fitness classes.
Yeah. I'll never talk crap about like any gyms around here, but like, you know, most commercial gyms, sorry, but your group classes are subpar. They just are. They don't invest in their proper equipment for them, space, training. They'll rely on a trainer that may just have a certificate, but has never, ever created anything that's remotely close to what we do here. And they call that a group class. But really, it's just somebody that has like a personal training certificate that they got online. But, you know, sorry. Any of you guys that are doing that out there right now, get real life experience because that's where it's at. Certificates are great. All right. You got to have them or whatever. But There was an opportunity for like what I felt was something better, particularly around here. Again, no knocks against other gyms. It's just like there's very few places that have space that would invest that kind of capital into like that kind of square footage that only goes towards classes. You know what I mean? If you're a commercial gym, you got to have a product that can back it up, that can cover those expenses. So I always knew that like this type of training had legs, particularly if the training was good. Your product's going to be good, period. If you have a constant flow of new trainers coming in and they're the ones that are providing the experience for your members, well, sorry, you got zero consistency there. What we have is years of thousands and thousands of formats and programs that we put together that just work.
When you transitioned from MaxEdge to Flight House, it's not a good business practice to completely rebrand a big brand 11 years in.
Yeah.
How difficult was it the early days of Flight House, just getting the word out about it and telling your old customers like, hey, this is same concept in terms of the group feel and whatnot, but just bigger and better, come with us. How difficult was it to get people to come with you?
It was hard. Oftentimes people don't like change. And I think that there was certainly a component of people that were upset that we were removing them from their home. There was that element to it, way more than I thought. And yeah, that part was like, for me at the time, for us, my wife and I, that was the scariest part. You got all these people questioning your decision. So many people questioning the decision to do this. And then the name change, it's like one of those things where initially you're like, are they right? Am I doing the right thing? But then ultimately there's a reason why we did it. And it's funny because once we did open here, it became very clear early on that we weren't as well known, MaxEdge, as I thought we were. The number of people that walked in here that were here just because like they weren't here because MaxEdge moved there. No, it was amazing to me like how few people from the Portsmouth area actually knew who we were. And it was eye-opening. But immediately though, people were knowing what Flight House was. It was strange. Like it was almost like a relief that like people weren't attached to the name. You'll still see people in the group class wearing their old MaxEdge swag. It's a little bit like a badge of honor. They were here before this was what it was, but we're upwards of 1,200 members now, so we weren't anywhere close to that. We had less than I want to say we had about 150 people left over by the time we came over here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh, we took a hit. A lot of them came back, right? They were upset about the move. It's going to be too far to go to Rye or whatever. And then all of a sudden, when you do open up a big, shiny facility, it kind of changes people's minds a little bit, and they can see now the vision. And you go to the grocery store, and if they change the aisles around, you're going to be, what the hell? You know what I mean? It's all the food still in the store. It's just in different aisles. Okay.
Right.
For here, yeah, it was like, oh my God, my routine? You mean I can't wake up at 5:52 in order to make it to the 6 a.m. class anymore? You know what I mean? It's like stuff like that,
Yeah.
Like really first world problems, man. So that quickly went away. And now it's like everybody gets it. The people that didn't come get it, and the people that are here, they get it and understand that we just weren't that anymore. That MaxEdge was something different. We're still like the programming, the classes, the family that runs the business is all still the same. But when you walk in, if you're at MaxEdge and you walk in here, you understand that this place is just different. It's better.
Something I'm dying to talk to you about. So you're 57. You're in fantastic shape.
Not really.
A lot of people who listen to this podcast fall in the age range of, 35 to 55. And for some reason, we just think the older we get, we're just incapable of working out, that our bodies just stop working when we're 50 years old. So can you just tell the people listening to this podcast who maybe aren't really into health and wellness and working out, but want to, but are kind of apathetic about it, what would you say to them to get them inspired?
Ultimately, we're all going to reach a point where we just want to live a better life longer.
Mm-hmm.
And what do I mean by that? What's living a better life? My wife and I, we just did a trip out to Vegas to go to the Sphere.
Crazy place. Oh my gosh.
Sphere was amazing. Okay, First of all, but Vegas is not my cup of tea. But anyway, we took a ride out to the Hoover Dam one day because we had to get the hell out of the city, And we stopped at this one place along the way, and there was like a stairway going up kind of to walk over this overlook. And I'm watching people walk to a certain point, then stop. Okay. Well, we should all want to make it to the top of that. And I'm looking at people that are younger than me. You go ahead. I'll wait here from you. So in other words, they're not going to see that view that they drove there to go see because they can't finish that little bit of a walk up there. It's a little bit too much. So living a better life longer, that should be about the minimum goal. All right, if I got grandkids, if I want to go on a hike, if I want to go for a walk down the beach, if I want to do the simple things that are enjoyable, all right, then there's a certain amount of minimum requirement needed. And that is like moving specifically for a certain number of steps daily and just being moderately active. And then if you really want to function better as you grow older, if you want more than just like the minimum maintenance, then yeah, you need to strength train. It's the fountain of youth. It is. It's the only thing that really is going to hold everything together. Maintaining strength as you age and maintaining strength and good cardiovascular health. To me, it's everything. Like the ability to be able to have a gas tank. We all need a gas tank in life. All right. If you're running on fumes after like your first 2 minutes of working out, you need to increase that. Yeah. So, oftentimes though, people think it's too late to start. Right. And my mother-in-law, who's 83, just got diagnosed with Parkinson's. Okay. And was having trouble, like the foot drag, things like that. Never went in a gym in her life, has great genetics like my wife, weight's never been an issue and moderately healthy otherwise. At 83, she just started going to the gym and working on strength training. It's like she's a different person. Really? Yeah. Confidence. Wow. All of her symptoms are really being mitigated. Wow. So, and that's just off her coming in here. She does about 40 minutes. She has a routine that she goes through on the selectorized equipment. That just means the pin load equipment. So she's not loading plates on the plate loaded stuff. And then she has this program that she does on the track where she does her walking and her steps, sideways steps, backward steps. She's holding onto a railing. She's got all the, her routine that she does. But the amount of confidence that she's gained at 83 years old and living by herself independently. So think about like what it takes to do that at that age. There's a real want there. So sometimes what happens is people get to a point where like something happens in their life and then they want to act. But if I can say anything, set up your 40s and your 30s, set up your 50s and your 40s. It all leads to one thing. Now it can the whole dogma of and trust me, I'm the biggest psychopath in the world. I think I have you beat. No, I'm just kidding. You probably have me beat. Yeah, well, I've done 1,000+ burpee pull-ups twice. Okay, I was the first human being to ever do it. The second time I did it when I was 51 years old. I hauled a sled on my back for 100+ days every day. That one my wife loved because she was like, "Oh, great! So for the next 3.5 months, we can't plan anything that doesn't involve you dragging a sled outside for a minimum of a mile a day every day." Yeah, stupid shit like that. So completely psycho. The 100,000 meter skier world record, all that stuff, But now what I realize is right now, I just want to I come and do the classes. To me, that's exactly where I want to be right now because I just want to be maintaining. I don't want to be obsessed by it. I don't want to lose anything. But I don't want to be obsessed. I'm obsessed with another part of my business right now. Right. So that's not where my obsession goes in my training. Yeah. But just start. And if you don't know what to do, the very best money, people say about, okay, it costs too much money. Well, shit, man. How much time do you got left? Even somebody that said, hey, I know people that spend over $1,000 a month with us here right now just on training. They would do one-on-one training because that's what works for them. All right. So say you're someone that makes, they make $300,000, $400,000, $500,000+ a year. You mean $12,000 a year to feel your very best and live life better, longer isn't worth it? Shit. Spend that all day long. So don't think you can't start. Just start by moving. And it's going to matter. It is. There'll be a point where all of us are going to get to where the work that we did leading up to that point in our life where now all of a sudden we start needing some help, it's going to be held off for a lot longer time if you can take care of yourself. Yeah. And also if your concerns are financial, just think about it.
You don't have the upfront costs of the
No.
memberships and the training, but you're certainly going to have the back end costs
Absolutely.
requiring around the clock care.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And, what nobody gets either is like in my mother-in-law's case is mentally what that did to her. Yes, physically, her symptoms changed. Like the foot drag is like wicked minimized right now. But she feels better mentally. She's doing something. She's being proactive at 83 years old to try to make her life better, her future better, to living alone better. So we're our own worst enemies. Men often are the worst because they're too self-conscious about looking stupid. But guess what? I look stupid all the time.
But you have to. It's worth it.
It is.
Joe Rogan says all the time that exercise, if you put that shit in a pill, everyone and their mother would have that 3 times a day.
Yeah.
It just takes work. But it literally solves every single physical and mental problem that can arise.
It's so easy to just like, I can't today. Like the excuse is like, shit, man. That's the one thing I haven't been able to kind of like, not like roll my eyes at when people tell me. It's like, it might not be this, but go do something that you're interested in. You know what I mean? Like we kind of all get into like the dogma of like what we do as far as training goes and how it's the best and why people should do it or whatnot, but just go do something. If you're someone that loves spin, you know what I mean? Like, oh my God, my daughter down in South Boston, she loves going to those classes.
Yeah. Go to Studio One. We love
Studio One is great. She's phenomenal. Like really, really great. And clearly it shows she has a following there and a passion for it. But whatever it is, do something. And it can change. It's okay. Honestly, that's one of the secrets behind our open gym concept. It is like, yeah, people might get tired of like doing the classes eventually at some point. Oh, good. Just go over there. Switch your membership.
Yeah.
That's all it is. So like whatever it is, just do something. The great thing about like spin or like something like that is like there is entertainment value there.
Mm-hmm. It's so fun.
You get an instructor that's like leading the class and like getting you into it. That's like something that can like move you, okay, and like bring you back. And then maybe you have certain people that you like better than others, but still, it's unique. And so for those people that are like driven by that kind of like energy, awesome. Then this might not be for you. I mean, because that's a certain kind of energy. People love that. You know what I mean? Like that's a different thing.
Moral of the story is find whatever works for you and then just lean into that because people will think, oh, like I don't have enough energy to work out. Guess what? Paradoxically, working out, you'll have more energy.
Yeah,
you'll wake up with more energy, more vitality. You'll be more motivation. You do a morning workout, that's the hardest thing you can do in a day. No matter what your day looks like, that's the hardest thing you can do in a day. The rest of the day is a cinch.
If you looked at like a picture of me at say 32 and then a picture of me at 52, 32, I was like a fat dad. You know what I mean? I had like these little kids. I had like no time. At least I thought I had no time. In a bad marriage. You know what I mean? Just not in a good space. So sometimes by taking that action, and particularly like I wish I thought of it then, but like you can be in like in a situation like that where like everything around you feels like it's just off. Life's off. My job's not quite what I want it to be. Physically, I'm not where I want it to be. But like, shit, what do I really have control over? What can I really have control over? Well, I can have control over what I put in my mouth. And I can have control over what I do for myself physically every day. I can, even without a gym membership. Nowadays on YouTube, you can go on. Yeah. Hey, we all need inspiration. You come in here, you're going to get inspired. You just are. You know what I mean? There's people that are like, when you come in here in the morning between the people in the open gym, the class is packed. It's like the energy is awesome. It's awesome. It's great. It's like, it's hard not to feel like that. Well, that's not all the time. There's times where you just got to say to yourself, okay, I am just going to go do something. And if it means that like, hey, for the next 15 minutes, I'm going to go through this cycle of push-ups, lunges, air squats. And then I'm going to run 400 meters and then come back and do some more, whatever it is. Move for 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is. That can be what starts you on your way.
Yeah. And you also don't need, I know we're here talking about the gym, but you don't need a gym.
You don't.
Nature, free. Walking, running, hiking, free.
Yep.
You don't need weights. Like your body is an incredible workout vessel in itself. If you just did all body weight stuff, that's hard.
Yeah, for sure. And you can get like nowadays, like there's so much information.
Some resistance bands. Yeah. That stuff's cheap. Like you can do so many incredible things. So moral of the story is Fitness is great. We love fitness.
It is. It can change your life, and it can change your mindset,
Yeah.
really, like it did mine.
And then it starts to just trickle out to every aspect of your life, improve your relationships, everything. Jay, thank you so much for joining. We have one final question.
Sure.
We ask the same final question at the end of every episode to every guest. We have a different final question for season 2, so I'm throwing you off. In hindsight, knowing what you know now, if you could tell your 22-year-old self something about how your life would pan out, what would you say to him?
You know, it was kind of a tough beginning for me, you know, and my family. There was times where, you know, at 22 years old, I was just getting out of the military. I had no job. I had nowhere to live. For a certain period of time, I was actually living in my car. I would stay with friends or whatnot, but like it was the economy was horrible. There were no jobs. I had no education, which back then, and remember the hourly wage right now is $20 an hour for most places, or whatever. You know, like for real, like I was working construction as like a laborer, you know, making $8 an hour and trying to afford to live on my own. That was a pretty dark time in my life at 22. And to think where I am now, I would just say to myself, dude, don't change a thing. I'm not going to tell you anything that happens. Not one thing. I am not going to tell you to avoid this, avoid that. Nothing. Keep doing what you're doing, okay? And come talk to me when you're 57, because it's pretty fucking incredible. Don't change a goddamn thing. Just keep being you, keep moving forward. Go through all this shit. Go through every bit of it. Every bit of shit that landed on your plate, that fell on your head, that life threw at you. Fucking go through it. Don't change a thing. Don't avoid it. All the bullshit that comes up in your life, face it head on. Don't run away from it. Just absorb it, learn from it, and move on. Because in the end, it's pretty goddamn good, man. Look at me. Wow. It really is. It's like, shit, wouldn't change a damn thing. Go through it all. And I think that's good. That's for everybody. You can't change history. You need that. Like, I needed that time. I had to have it. I had to. Otherwise, it wouldn't be me. I wouldn't be married to the person I'm married to. I wouldn't have the kids I have. Like, shit, my life is fantastic. I swear too much, don't I?
That's totally fine.
Sorry.
I love that answer. I'm not sure if I'll get a better answer than that all season. If there's anything I'm learning right now, it's that all of the missteps of your past, all of the things that seemed like detours, they were all part of the success story.
Yeah, and the more you believe that, like, the better off you're going to be. Because, like, there was times where I went through, I was like, oh, I wish I did this instead. I wish I didn't go down that path. I wish I didn't. Thank God I did. Would not change a single thing.
That's Jay Collins, the owner and founder of Flight House Gym in Rye. For more information on the facility, class schedule, or membership plans, please visit flighthousegym.com, the link to which is in today's show notes. I am finally back on the Seacoast after a yoga retreat in Mexico with Sarah Olson, and I am so happy to be home so that I can run into all of you at places like Patty B's, the new Inkwell Coffee, or Ginger Fox Bakery. As for next week's episode with popular Seacoast artist Paige Lindsay, here's a sneak peek.
I still feel a little like out of place a little bit. I feel like sometimes like I don't know if they know what to do with me, but that's okay. That's fine. And it's totally fine. I add a little flair. It's great.
That's next week on Seacoast Stories. Until then, have a great week. Live free or die.